be seated. Now, I don't know if it was a commercial or some kind of TV show, but it was something to the effect that a young couple went on a trip to Hawaii or Istanbul or somewhere, and they had pictures, and this is when they had slides, they had the slide projector and all the slides, so they had a slideshow set up, and they invited their friends to come over, and so you see the friends coming over and having a good time at starting, and they're eating, and pretty soon they're starting the slideshow, and this is us over here by the hill, and this is us over here by this fountain, and here we are over here, and then you see the next scene, and the companions, the friends are kind of going like this, and they're looking at the walls, and they're thinking of ideas to go back to, the kitchen for something, and they're, playing their iPods or whatever they're doing, and anything but listening to the show because they're bored out of their minds. It's interesting that people went there because, see, this is, when I see this picture, I remember being there, and it was really exciting, but these other people, they just can't get it because, a picture, so, I see an extra fountain, so big deal. It doesn't do anything for me because I wasn't there. There's so much to be said for being there, right? When you tell a joke, you hear some joke and it's really funny. Your situation is really funny. You laugh and have a good time, and you go to tell someone, and they go, "Yeah, you must have had to been there." Oh, okay. Well, it's not the same thing. I think about this gospel, and the key phrase in here that Peter says, it's good for us to be here. You're right, it's good for you to be there. In more ways than one, Peter. It's good for you to be there to experience things, because when we're there in the midst of something, we can experience it. Now it's just our sight, looking at a picture or a slideshow or something on Skype or iPod or whatever. But we're there. We're there in sense of we can hear things. We can smell. What does it smell like? How does it? Is there windy? Is it warm? Is it different kinds of sensations and feelings? You can remember things from being in this particular spot. You go hiking down into the Haleakala crater, and it's fantastic. But when you see a picture of it from somebody else, it's like, so, you can't grasp the sun coming through the clouds and having a rainbow, a prism of light and things like that, or just the different scenes, 360 degrees around you and the scenery. You just can't capture that on a photo. But we have Peter trying to do that very thing, don't we? He has this way of saying, well, let's capture the moment, a Kodak moment. Let's capture it. Let's make booths. One for you and for Moses. Because I want to stay on this mountaintop. This is a great experience. I want to stay here as long as I can and capture that. But somehow, it just wouldn't be the same, would it? I'm kind of glad he didn't, because I'm sure we'll be trekking up the mountain to see these three stone, whatever they are, and it doesn't have any meaning for me. I was like, oh, okay, some stone buildings, it doesn't have the same punch, doesn't have the same impact for me as if I were there watching Jesus being transfigured, talking to Moses and Elijah in the moment. It just doesn't have that sense for us. I think the powerful thing is that Peter, James, and John had this astounding experience, but something inside of them changed, maybe ever so slightly. In our lives, we have mountaintop experiences kind of shot in the arm in our faith life, in our faith journeys, to make God known to us in a very special way. We have that moment. We have these kids, we have the adults that went to New Orleans, and we saw 37,000 people all worshiping together. It's a mountaintop experience. And to come back and try to talk about it and show slides just doesn't do it justice. People can sense it from the exuberance and the excitement from the people who were there, but it lasts for just so very little time. But there is something that changes each of the individuals that were there in a gradual kind of way that it makes it theirs. They're witnessing in a way that it's not so much what they say as who they are. They've become different in a way. I did a hospital chaplaincy, and every seminarian has to do this, a hospital chaplaincy for 3 months, every day, all day, for 3 months. And I remember one of the resident chaplains, it's a different program, you're there for a year to get your residency, and he said, when I go back to my hospital in Michigan, I know that my administrator, there's 3 letters, S-O, anyway, he will be the same. He's not going to change. Nothing's going to change with him, but something in me has changed. And I take this experience right now, and I take it within myself, and there's something in me that's changed. And so when I go back to this hospital, things will be different because I am different. I'm no longer responding to him in negative ways or unhealthy ways. I'm different in a way. I think of the task that Peter, James, and John have ahead of them. 3 of the disciples who've been with Jesus, who've seen these miraculous things, healings, feeding of the thousands over and over again. They've seen this Jesus. They've experienced him. Now there's something different. Just the 3 of them have experienced. How do you tell someone about that? And we find that with us too. When something big has happened to us, even something traumatic that's happened to us, it takes a while for our emotional self to catch up. You know, if someone has died, for instance, my mother has died after 10 years of battling cancer, you know it's going to happen. You expect it. You know it's going to happen, but the day it happens, you're just caught off guard. You don't know, you're not prepared at all. And you go to the memorial service in a couple of days after that, and you're kind of, you know, still in shock, denial, all those kinds of things. It doesn't seem as real, you know. And then a few months down the road, when you're actually bearing the ashes, it hits you because your emotional self catches up. And now you feel the brunt of it. You feel the earthiness of the ashes being planted in the ground with a maple tree on top, just as she wanted it to be, packed with loving care. And then it hits you. It's for the people that have had experiences in their lives, that have all the support in the world at the very beginning, because when they're in the shock denial stage, it's very nice, but then what happens when the emotions catch up? Months down the road, 6 months down the road, that's when you need the support, because that's when it hits you. Later on, you need that companion. You need those people to be with you. I'm sure that Peter, James, and John, you know, from going the elation of seeing Jesus to fear and terror of the cloud and God's voice in the cloud, I imagine they were pretty dumbfounded. I probably would have been dumbfounded myself. What do you say? It says they didn't say anything. They were silent for in those days. But I imagine the story had to come out. Otherwise, we wouldn't be reading it. When it was ready for them, it came out in a way of saying, this is what we experienced. You know, all of us have experienced things in our lives, but sometimes it just takes a while to catch up so that we can think of a way, we can be a certain way or act a certain way that makes it known and witnessed. It's been changing inside of us. And how do we relate that? How do we witness that kind of thing? It's not like the photograph. It's a whole being self enveloped in this. Photographs can be deceiving too, you know. I remember back, and my wife, Kelly, knows this too, you know, when she was, 3 or 4 years old, we tried to get Christmas pictures of the family. Remember that? And we went to Sears, you know, and we had these wonderful pictures of Ariana and us smiling, you know. But we know better. We know what happened really, you know, for an hour and a half, trying to drag her from going behind the curtain and play with other props and stuff to get her on the pony, and she was crying and screaming and hollering and all kinds of things. And the photographer was really good. You know, as soon as she smiled, click, captured it. So you have 4 beautiful photos, and you go, look at this. People go, oh, she was really good, wasn't she? And say, yes, if you only knew what really took place. We're never doing this again, you know. The pictures only tell you part of the story. They don't know everything that went in before it. This Transfiguration is just a story we've heard, but it's much more than that. I'm sure for the disciples, it was such an enriching experience, they were dumbfounded. We have experiences in our lives that are just so great or so tragic or whatever that we can't speak of it. But we've been changed little by little, gradually. And this, for me, shows that God is, you know, not only on the mountaintop with the shining Jesus and Moses and Elijah, but also in the next day when Jesus went back to work as his ministry, his mission, healing the sick boy, For our daily lives, we have the mountaintop experiences, then we go back to our daily lives, changed ever so slightly, that we make a small difference in the world, and sometimes that's all it takes, is that small difference to really affect the lives of people and us. God is not only there, but He is also in our solitude, perhaps walking side by side with us as a silent companion when we really need that. Or He could be walking next to us, poking and prodding us, pushing us into something that we might not want to do, or we might want to do. But this point is that Jesus and God is always present in our lives, no matter where we're at. And so we reiterate what Peter was saying. It is good for us to be here at this moment.